Soft ripples dance across the surface of a quiet stream, sunlight filtering through the trees, casting a golden glow over the still water. In the distance, a temple bell chimes gently, its sound dissolving into the breeze. There is serenity in this moment, a deep stillness where wisdom takes root. In the silence of stillness, wisdom flourishes like a lotus in the mud. This timeless truth has been echoed in Zen and Buddhist teachings for centuries. True peace of mind is not just about embracing virtues. It is also about knowing when to release what disrupts harmony. We are often taught to cultivate patience, endurance, and compassion, but rarely do we hear about the strength required to let go. The wise do not cling to chaos. They do not waste energy resisting what drains them. Instead, they step back, not out of hatred or resentment, but from a deep understanding of life's truths. In this video, we explore a lesson that is both simple and profound: why those who cultivate wisdom quietly distance themselves from two specific types of people. Not with anger, not with confrontation, but with clarity. There is power in knowing when to let go. Some burdens are not meant to be carried, and some ties must be severed to preserve inner peace. Through the lens of Zen philosophy, we will uncover the truth behind this silent wisdom. You will hear the story of a troubled student who sought guidance from a wise teacher, burdened by relationships that weighed on his spirit. His dilemma is one that many of us have faced. Should we endure difficult people in the name of patience, or should we walk away and risk being seen as heartless? The teacher, embodying the essence of Buddhist wisdom, shares two stories, each revealing a fundamental truth about human nature and the hidden toll that toxic relationships take on the soul. These stories will not only provide clarity, but also offer a new perspective on how we navigate relationships, set boundaries, and honor our self-worth. This is not just a lesson in letting go. It is an invitation to reclaim your energy, protect your peace, and move through life with a profound sense of freedom. Because sometimes the wisest choice is not to fight or resist, but simply to step away. The story of the wise teacher and the troubled student. The sun had just begun its descent, casting a golden hue over the quiet monastery. A gentle breeze rustled the bamboo leaves, their whispers blending with the distant sound of a flowing stream. In the heart of this tranquil setting sat a wise teacher, his presence exuding a sense of deep stillness and understanding. He carried no titles, yet seekers from near and far came to him, drawn by the clarity in his words and the peace in his demeanor. One day, a troubled student approached him, his face weighed down by confusion and exhaustion. His steps were hesitant, his mind clouded with unanswered questions. Bowing respectfully, he sat before the teacher, exhaling deeply as if releasing the burdens he had been carrying. "Master," the student finally spoke, his voice tinged with frustration. "I have spent years trying to cultivate patience, as you have taught. I have endured difficult people, tolerated their harsh words, and tried to be understanding. But no matter how much kindness I offer, some people seem to drain me of my energy, leaving me feeling exhausted and lost. What am I doing wrong? Should I continue enduring their presence to prove my patience? Or should I let them go and risk being seen as heartless?" The teacher listened intently, his eyes reflecting both wisdom and compassion. He did not answer immediately, but instead reached for the small clay teapot beside him. With steady hands, he poured tea into the student's cup. The liquid rose higher and higher until it reached the brim, yet the teacher did not stop. He continued pouring, allowing the tea to spill over, cascading onto the wooden table below. The student instinctively pulled back, startled. "Master, the cup is full. It cannot hold any more." The teacher set the teapot down and looked at the student with a gentle smile. "Like this cup, your heart is overflowing. But instead of tea, it is filled with burdens that do not belong to you. Tell me, does it make sense to keep pouring when the cup can hold no more?" The student lowered his gaze, contemplating the teacher's words. "The world teaches endurance," the teacher continued, "but wisdom teaches discernment. To be patient is a virtue, but to allow yourself to be drained by those who disrupt your peace is not patience. It is self-abandonment." The student's brow furrowed. "But master, How do I know when to endure and when to walk away? The teacher leaned back slightly, gazing toward the horizon as if seeing beyond the physical world. Let me share 2 stories with you. Through them, you will understand why a wise person must sometimes walk away, not out of hatred, but out of clarity. The manipulative controller. There was once a young monk, the teacher began, who had dedicated his life to the pursuit of enlightenment. He studied diligently, meditated for hours, and sought wisdom from the elders of his monastery. But among these elders was one particular figure, a man of great charm and influence, whose words dripped with sweetness yet carried a hidden sting. The student listened attentively, his curiosity piqued. This elder was not overtly cruel, the teacher continued, nor did he demand obedience through force. Instead, he manipulated subtly. He would twist situations to his advantage, making the young monk doubt his own decisions. He spoke in riddles that always positioned himself as superior and others as misguided. Whenever the monk tried to express his concerns, the elder would smile and say, "You must learn humility, young one. If you feel troubled, the fault lies within you, not in my words." The student frowned, recognizing the pattern. For a long time, the young monk endured. The teacher went on. He believed that patience and humility meant staying silent, suppressing his growing discomfort. He thought that by tolerating the elder's ways, he was strengthening his own spirit. But over time, he noticed something strange. Every interaction left him feeling drained. His once clear thoughts became clouded with doubt. His confidence wavered, and his path, once so certain, now felt uncertain and heavy. The teacher paused for a moment, allowing the story to settle in. One evening, the young monk sat by a stream, watching the water flow effortlessly over the rocks. I approached him and asked, "What troubles you, young one?" He explained his turmoil, and I pointed to the stream, saying, "Do you see how the water flows around the rocks without resistance? It does not waste energy trying to move them. It simply finds another path and continues forward." The student's eyes widened in understanding. "The manipulative controller in your life is like these rocks," the teacher explained. "They block your flow, disrupt your peace, and make you question your own truth. A wise person does not waste their energy arguing with the rocks. They simply adjust their course and move on. This is not an act of anger, but of wisdom." The student exhaled slowly. "So the young monk chose to leave?" "Yes," the teacher nodded. "Not with confrontation, but with clarity. And in doing so, he reclaimed his peace." The relentlessly negative soul. The teacher leaned forward slightly, his expression serene. "But there is another kind of burden," he said. "One that does not manipulate, but instead drains the spirit in a different way." He continued, "In a small village, there lived a kind-hearted traveler who believed in the goodness of people. One day, the traveler met a villager known for his relentless negativity. No matter the circumstance, he always found something to complain about. The sun was too bright. The rain was too cold. The harvest was never good enough. Even acts of kindness were met with suspicion and discontent." The student chuckled softly, recognizing the type. The traveler, believing that kindness could change the villager's perspective, spent years offering encouragement, sharing stories of hope, and performing small gestures of goodwill. But no matter what he did, the villager remained unchanged. Worse, the traveler himself began to feel drained, his once vibrant spirit dimming under the weight of endless complaints. The teacher's voice softened. One day, the traveler sought the wisdom of an elder, asking, "Why does my light not brighten his darkness?" The elder replied, "Your light is not the problem. But understand this, some people are like bottomless vessels. No matter how much you pour into them, they cannot be filled. Their negativity is not a condition, it is a choice." The student sighed, absorbing the lesson. The traveler, with a heavy heart, made a decision. The teacher concluded. He chose to walk away, not because he lacked compassion, but because he valued his peace. And in doing so, he realized that true kindness is not about sacrificing oneself, but about knowing when to let go. The power of silent departure. The teacher turned back to the student, his eyes filled with quiet understanding. "You asked whether it is better to endure or to let go," he said gently. "The answer lies not in proving patience, but in recognizing wisdom. You must ask yourself, does this person help me grow, or do they anchor me to suffering? If they block your path like the rock in the stream, or drain your light like the bottomless vessel, then walking away is not an act of cruelty. It is an act of liberation." The student bowed deeply, his heart lighter, his mind clearer. As he walked away from the teacher that evening, he understood that true wisdom is not just about what we hold on to, but also about what we choose to release. The manipulative controller. In a quiet monastery nestled deep within the mountains, a young monk dedicated himself to the path of enlightenment. He spent his days in meditation, studying sacred texts, and absorbing the wisdom of the elders. Yet, despite his commitment to the teachings, he often felt unsettled, as if something unseen was clouding his clarity. At the center of his turmoil was one particular elder, a man revered for his eloquence and charm. He spoke in a way that drew others in, his voice smooth and reassuring, his words seemingly filled with insight. But beneath this polished exterior lay something far more complex. The elder was not openly cruel, nor did he command obedience through force. Instead, he manipulated subtly, twisting perceptions and reshaping reality in ways that left the young monk questioning his own judgment. Whenever the monk sought guidance, the elder would respond with words that, on the surface, seemed wise, yet always carried an undercurrent of control. If the monk expressed doubts, the elder would tilt his head, smiling knowingly. "Doubt," he would say, "is a sign of an unsettled mind. Perhaps you should reflect on why you feel this way." A truly enlightened monk would not be troubled by such thoughts. The monk, eager to grow in wisdom, tried to suppress his unease. He convinced himself that these moments were tests of patience, that enduring the elder's presence was a lesson in humility. But over time, he began to notice a pattern. Every conversation left him mentally exhausted. The more he engaged with the elder, the more he felt his confidence eroding. His intuition, once clear and sharp, became muddled with self-doubt. One evening, after yet another interaction that left him feeling drained, the young monk wandered to a nearby stream, hoping to find solace in nature. He sat by the water's edge, watching the gentle current weave its way through the rocks. The rhythmic flow was calming, yet his thoughts remained restless. Sensing his distress, the wise teacher approached and sat beside him in silence for a moment. Then, gesturing toward the stream, the teacher asked, "Tell me, what do you see?" The monk blinked, momentarily caught off guard. "I see the water flowing," he answered slowly. "It moves around the rocks, finding its way forward." The teacher nodded. "And what do you notice about the rocks?" The monk studied them for a moment before replying, "They remain where they are. The water does not push against them. It simply adjusts its path and continues flowing." A gentle smile formed on the teacher's face. "Exactly," he said. "The manipulative controller in your life is like these rocks. They obstruct your flow, diverting your path, making you expend energy where none is needed. A wise person does not waste their strength trying to move the rocks. Instead, they adjust their course and continue forward." The young monk listened intently as the teacher continued. "You see, manipulators thrive on reaction. They weave their influence not through force, but through subtle distortions that make you question yourself. They plant seeds of doubt, not through direct conflict, but through carefully placed words that linger in your mind. The more you engage, the more entangled you become in their web." The monk exhaled slowly, the weight of realization settling upon him. "So, the only way to be free is to walk away?" The teacher nodded. "Not with anger, not with resentment, but with clarity. Manipulative people feed off your energy, your attempts to explain yourself, your efforts to make them understand. But when you step away in silence, they lose their hold. They cannot control what does not engage with them." A long silence stretched between them as the monk absorbed the lesson. He thought back to all the times he had tried to reason with the elder, to prove his sincerity, to seek validation where none would be given. And in that moment he understood. It was not patience that kept him in the elder's presence, but fear. Fear of being misunderstood, fear of seeming disrespectful, fear of letting go. The teacher's voice was gentle but firm. To remain in the presence of someone who manipulates is to slowly lose yourself. True wisdom is not found in enduring harm, but in recognizing when to step away. The monk looked back at the stream, watching as the water effortlessly flowed around the rocks. It did not resist. It did not fight. It simply found another way. For the first time in a long while, his mind felt clear. He knew what he had to do. Without hesitation, without bitterness, he made the quiet decision to distance himself from the elder, not through confrontation, but through the simple act of no longer engaging. And just like that, the rock lost its power over the stream. The lesson of letting go. The story of the young monk teaches a profound truth. Manipulative people hold power only as long as you engage with them. Their control is not built on strength, but on the reactions they extract from you, your explanations, your defenses, your attempts to seek fairness where none exists. When you stop responding, when you choose not to justify, argue, or seek validation, their influence fades. Silence is not weakness. It is power. Walking away is not an act of hostility. It is an act of wisdom. In Buddhist teachings, there is a saying, "A person who cannot control their own mind will try to control others." The wise recognize this and step away, not out of hate, but out of understanding. By choosing peace over conflict, clarity over entanglement, they free themselves to walk the path that is truly meant for them. To hold on is to be bound. To let go is to be free. The relentlessly negative soul. A weary traveler once arrived at a quiet village nestled between rolling hills and vast fields of golden wheat. The village was simple yet peaceful, with homes built of stone and wood, and a river that flowed gently through its center. The traveler, a kind-hearted soul, had spent years wandering from town to town, offering help wherever it was needed. He carried no great wealth, only wisdom and a desire to spread kindness. One afternoon, as he rested beneath the shade of an old oak tree, he heard a voice muttering nearby. Turning, he saw a villager sitting on a worn wooden bench, staring at the ground with a deep frown. The man sighed loudly, shaking his head as if the weight of the world rested upon his shoulders. "The sun is too hot today," the villager grumbled. "It dries the soil and makes the air thick with dust." The traveler, always eager to bring comfort to others, smiled warmly. "But the sun also helps the crops grow, does it not?" he offered gently. The villager scoffed. "Yes, but when it rains, the fields flood, and the roads turn to mud. The rain is just as bad." Undeterred, the traveler tried again. "But the rain nourishes the earth, and the fresh air it brings is a blessing." The villager let out another heavy sigh. "A blessing? You wouldn't say that if you had to deal with leaky roofs and damp clothes. Nothing is ever quite right." The traveler paused, studying the villager with quiet curiosity. "Surely, then, the cool breeze of autumn must bring you peace?" The villager shook his head. "Autumn is when the trees shed their leaves, and everything looks barren. And winter is worse, cold and cruel, with nothing but endless gray skies." The traveler sat down beside him. "And spring?" The villager shrugged. "Spring brings pollen and sickness. Besides, it only reminds us that another year has passed. And what have we truly gained?" The traveler fell silent. No matter what perspective he offered, the villager found a way to twist it into something unpleasant. It was as if he had built a fortress around his misery, ensuring that no light could enter. Still, the traveler was not one to give up easily. Over the following weeks, he made it his mission to bring joy into the villager's life. He shared uplifting stories of distant lands, tales of hope and perseverance. He invited the villager to walk with him through the fields at sunrise, to witness the world bathed in golden light. He brought him fresh fruits from the market, hoping their sweetness might brighten his mood. But no matter what he did, the villager remained unchanged. He found flaws in every act of kindness, dismissed every word of encouragement. When the traveler shared a story of triumph, the villager countered with a tale of failure. When the traveler pointed out beauty, the villager pointed out decay. Days turned into months and months into years. The traveler, once so full of optimism, began to feel a heaviness settle upon him. He found himself sighing more often, his steps slower, his spirit dimmed. He had spent so much energy trying to fill the villager with light, only to find himself drained in the process. One day, feeling utterly exhausted, the traveler sought the wisdom of a revered teacher who lived at the edge of the village. The old master welcomed him with a warm smile and listened as the traveler poured out his frustrations. "Master," the traveler said, shaking his head, "I have spent years trying to help this man. I have given him my time, my energy, my compassion. But no matter how much I offer, he refuses to change. Why does my light not brighten his darkness?" The teacher chuckled softly and motioned for the traveler to follow him. He led him to a quiet courtyard where several clay pots sat beneath the sun, each filled with fresh water. But among them was one pot with no bottom, a vessel that, no matter how much water was poured in, could never be filled. "Some people," the teacher said, gesturing to the broken pot, "are like this vessel. No matter how much kindness, wisdom, or love you pour into them, they do not hold it. Their emptiness is not because they lack opportunities for joy, but because they have chosen to remain unfilled." The traveler frowned. "But surely, with enough effort, I could help him see the beauty in life?" The teacher shook his head. "That is where many kind souls make their mistake. You see, negativity is not just a condition, it is often a choice. Some people cling to it not because they have no other options, but because it has become their identity. To them, suffering is familiar, complaints are comfortable, and misery, in a strange way, becomes a source of control." The traveler looked back at the pot, watching as the water spilled straight through its hollow base. "So, the only way to keep my peace is to stop pouring?" The teacher nodded. "Wisdom is knowing where to invest your energy. A wise person does not try to fill a vessel that refuses to hold water. They do not waste years trying to convince someone to embrace joy if that person has already decided to reject it." The traveler sat with these words for a long time. He thought about all the moments he had spent trying to shift the villager's perspective, all the times he had sacrificed his own peace for the sake of someone who had no desire to change. Slowly, the weight on his heart began to lift. The next morning, he passed through the village once more. The villager sat in his usual spot, grumbling about the chill in the air. The traveler paused, considering whether to speak. But then, remembering the teacher's lesson, he simply smiled, bowed his head in silent farewell, and continued on his way. For the first time in years, his steps felt light. The lesson of letting go. The story of the traveler and the villager teaches a powerful truth. Negativity is contagious, and some people hold onto it by choice, not by circumstance. No matter how much kindness you offer, some individuals will never accept it. Not because they can't, but because they won't. A wise person recognizes when they are pouring into a bottomless vessel. They understand that walking away is not a sign of failure, but a sign of wisdom. Protecting your energy is not selfish. It is necessary. Buddhism teaches us that peace is cultivated, not demanded. You cannot force joy upon someone who refuses to see it. The act of letting go does not mean you lack compassion. It means you value your own well-being. In the end, true wisdom is knowing when to offer help and when to step away in silence. The silent wisdom of letting go. Letting go is often misunderstood. Many believe that walking away from toxic relationships is an act of cruelty, a rejection of kindness, or a failure of patience. But in truth, cutting ties with those who disrupt your peace is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of self-respect. It is a recognition that not all relationships are meant to be endured, and that sometimes the greatest wisdom lies in knowing when to step away. In Buddhism, compassion is one of the highest virtues. We are taught to be kind, to be patient, to see the suffering in others and respond with understanding. But compassion does not mean sacrificing your own well-being. It does not mean tolerating manipulation, enduring relentless negativity, or allowing others to drain your energy. True compassion begins with yourself. It means acknowledging that your peace, your mental and emotional well-being are worth protecting. There is a saying in Zen, holding on is to be bound. Letting go is to be free. This wisdom reminds us that attachment, even to relationships that harm us, is a form of self-imposed suffering. We hold on because we fear loneliness, judgment, or guilt. We convince ourselves that staying is the right thing to do, that endurance is proof of strength. But in reality, true strength is not found in enduring pain. It is found in choosing peace over suffering. When you let go of toxic relationships, you are not rejecting the person. You are rejecting the burden they place on your soul. You are acknowledging that their presence brings more harm than good, that their words and actions pull you away from the tranquility you seek. Letting go does not mean you stop caring. It means you care enough about yourself to set boundaries. It is an act of clarity, not cruelty. The decision to walk away is not always easy. Guilt may whisper that you should try harder. Fear may convince you that stepping away is an act of failure. But in those moments, remember this: you cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot offer kindness, patience, or wisdom to the world if your own spirit is depleted. Protecting your energy allows you to be more present for those who truly appreciate and uplift you. Buddhism teaches us that peace is something we cultivate, not something we find in others. The path to inner harmony is not about adding more to our lives, but about removing what no longer serves us. Just as a gardener prunes a tree to help it grow, we too must remove the relationships that hinder our growth. So if you find yourself holding on to people who manipulate, who drain your spirit, who cloud your clarity, know that letting go is not an act of abandonment, but of liberation. In releasing what weighs you down, you make space for peace, clarity, and true connection to enter your life. Practical steps to apply this wisdom. Understanding the wisdom of letting go is one thing, but applying it in real life requires deep reflection and intentional action. To truly embody this practice, you must take deliberate steps to free yourself from toxic relationships and reclaim your peace. Letting go is not a single moment. It is a process of healing, growth, and self-awareness. 1. Self-reflection, understanding why you hold on. Before you can let go, take a moment to reflect on why you have tolerated a toxic relationship. Ask yourself, why have I endured this person's presence in my life? What have I learned from this experience? Am I holding on out of fear, guilt, or a sense of obligation? Self-reflection helps you recognize patterns in your relationships and identify the emotional attachments that keep you stuck. It is not about blaming yourself, but about gaining clarity. By understanding your reasons, you can begin to break free from cycles of negativity and choose healthier connections moving forward. 2. Setting clear boundaries. Boundaries are essential for protecting your mental and emotional well-being. Without them, you leave yourself open to being manipulated, drained, or taken for granted. To set boundaries effectively, identify behaviors that you will no longer tolerate in your relationships. Decide how you will respond if someone crosses those boundaries. Be firm and consistent. Setting a boundary is only effective if you uphold it. Some may resist when you first enforce your boundaries, especially those who have benefited from your lack of them. But remember, protecting your peace is not selfish. It is necessary. 3. Reaffirming your core values. Toxic relationships have a way of making you doubt yourself. Over time, manipulation, criticism, and negativity can shake your confidence and cloud your sense of purpose. That is why it is important to reconnect with who you truly are and what you stand for. Take time to reflect on your core values. What principles guide your life? What kind of energy do you want to surround yourself with? What relationships align with your growth and which ones hold you back? By reaffirming your values, you strengthen your inner foundation. This clarity will make it easier to walk away from relationships that do not align with your path. 4. Reclaiming your energy. Letting go of toxic relationships can leave behind an empty space, but this emptiness is not a loss, it is an opportunity. Instead of focusing on what you have removed, shift your attention to what you can now invite into your life. Surround yourself with people who uplift, encourage, and inspire you. Pursue your passions and interests, whether it is art, music, travel, or personal growth. Spend time in nature, allowing its stillness to heal and ground you. When you redirect your energy toward things that nourish your spirit, you will find that peace naturally replaces the chaos you once endured. 5. Transforming silence into power. Many people fear silence, associating it with avoidance or weakness. But in truth, silence is a powerful statement. Silence is strength. When you stop reacting to manipulation and negativity, you take away the power others have over you. Silence is detachment. By choosing not to engage in toxic dynamics, you free yourself from emotional entanglement. Silence is compassion. Walking away does not mean you wish harm upon others, it means you recognize that their journey is not yours to fix. In Buddhism, detachment does not mean indifference, it means caring wisely. You can still hold compassion for someone while choosing to step away. Embracing the path of peace. Letting go is not about erasing people from your life, it is about prioritizing your well-being and aligning your relationships with your highest self. The journey may not be easy, but with self-reflection, clear boundaries, and renewed energy, you will find that true peace begins when you choose yourself. As we reach the end of this journey, let us take a moment to reflect on the lesson we have explored. Letting go is not an act of rejection, it is an act of liberation. It is not about turning away in anger, nor is it about closing our hearts. Instead, it is about recognizing what no longer serves our peace and having the wisdom to release it. Many of us struggle with the idea of walking away, fearing that doing so makes us unkind or ungrateful. But true wisdom lies in understanding that not all relationships are meant to last, and not all people are meant to stay in our lives forever. Some are lessons, some are tests, and some are simply detours on our journey toward inner peace. Buddhism teaches us that attachment is the root of suffering. We suffer not because things change, but because we resist change. We hold on to what is familiar even when it drains us because we fear the unknown. But just like the lotus flower that rises from the mud, we are not meant to cling to the darkness, we are meant to rise beyond it. Letting go is not about losing, it is about making space for something better. It is about choosing clarity over confusion, freedom over entanglement, and peace over chaos. When we release what weighs us down, we allow light to enter our lives. We open ourselves to deeper connections, greater self-awareness, and a life that aligns with our highest values. So, as you move forward, I encourage you to embrace this wisdom. Reflect on your relationships, set boundaries with confidence, and choose to invest your energy in people and experiences that uplift you. Remember that your peace is not a prize to be earned, it is a right to be protected. If you found wisdom in this message, I invite you to be part of this journey. Consider subscribing to the channel, sharing your thoughts in the comments, and joining a community dedicated to inner peace and mindful living. Your story, your insights, and your journey matter. Thank you for being here, and may your path always lead you toward clarity, peace, and true freedom.